You're watching The Extra Point, presented by UteFans.net and filmed at the beautiful and historic Public Eds in the shadow of President's Circle. Obviously, we come away with a win last night against San Diego State. Great game for us. We really showed up in a big way. What I thought was interesting, I thought the way we'd open the segment is there was some talk about how San Diego State was going to be more physical than the Utes last night. What do you think about that, Jordan?
It's not something you really want to say the week of a game, I don't think, ever. It doesn't matter who you're playing or if you have a chance to out-physical them, because that just adds fuel to the fire. I mean, coming in this game, Utah was already motivated with the revenge factor from last year, and then to put something like that out there in the media, it's not ideal for San Diego State.
Cal, what did you think about yet another slow start?
To echo Cam Rising's post-game interview, he kept saying our brand of football. And we obviously did get off to another slow start last night. I noticed that the transition really wasn't the second quarter, but it was when the quarterback started to utilize the vertical routes by the wide receivers. We've been speaking explicitly about the wide receivers creating space and getting open. I don't know if that was the case last night to make Cam start to throw the ball on the outside, but after that first explosive play completion to Solomoninas, it opened up the rest of the formation, and the rest of the wide receivers started to click. Whittingham mentioned in his post-game interview that their primary set is 2 tight ends and 2 wide receivers. If that's going to be the case, then they'll start stacking the tight ends. We found a way to expand those defensive focus, started running them across the field in man-to-mans. They got tired, could have been the elevation, but we ended up rolling with that momentum. It just happened to be at the end of the first quarter.
And we have a new feature that we're adding today, right, Jordan? The extra point blessing.
Hey, all I'm saying is Bryson was on, has a great game against SDSU the following week. Solomon's on, has a great game against San Diego State.
Touchdown.
We'll see what Jordan does next week.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Jordan? We have this slow start. It seems to be kind of a trend for Utah football. But second quarter, we blow it open. 21 straight points, right?
Yep.
So what are your thoughts looking at the offensive production yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I think, overall they played. If you look at the whole picture, they played a great game, right? They put up points, 8 of 15 on third down. Cam was efficient. I think it was his record night, 4 touchdown passes. So you just got to fix the slow start and really emphasize it. It's tough. It's almost one of those things. You don't want to overemphasize it where it becomes this like looming thing in your mind, but at the same time, as they move into Pac-12 conference play, some of these offenses they're going to go against, you can't have that in this league, and you got to get up and put points up quick, or the thing can get away from you.
Cal, what are your takeaways? I mean, we look at Mr. Cam Rising, 18 of 30 passes for 224 yards and a career high 4 touchdowns in only 3 quarters of action. It's pretty good.
Yes, but if you look at it by quarter, the first quarter was abysmal. And I'm not one to harp on anybody's stats. Stats are relative because you can throw a ball and 3 things can happen, 2 of them not being beneficial to the offense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to really dissect the stats, but I will say that, like I mentioned, our brand of football is still yet to be discovered. As fans, it's easy for us to anticipate us coming out, starting with out-of-the-gate momentum carrying over from the week before and score on every drive. I'm curious as to what is going to make people change their mind that it is not a slow start. Do we have to score points in the first and second possessions? Do we have to have so many first downs? Like, at what point do we distinguish the difference between just not connecting, which is the same as 3 and outs in the third quarter or deep in the fourth quarter versus the beginning of the offensive production in the first quarter?
So a few things as far as the offensive production goes. Brant Keithy was Brant Keithy last night. 5 passes for 64 yards and a touchdown. And I was really impressed with Devon Vele myself. I mean, that one of those touchdown passes he made where he got that 1 foot in, pretty impressive. He's turning out to be a pretty promising return man as well, if I do say so myself. And then what about Dalton Kincaid? We had yet another hurdle. Another hurdle.
Yep.
He's going for it.
Olympic hopeful.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and then obviously Solomoninas, 3 catches, 35 yards, and that touchdown.
Yeah.
So we looked good.
Yeah, I think the receivers, the production was there from that group. It was good to put that on tape going into conference play, going into ASU. I think Vele is a highly talented guy. I mean, you see him with the ball in space in the return game. So continuing to find ways to get them the ball is only going to help.
And I should just mention, I had talked to a lot of athletes, a lot of football players, and Devon is really highly thought of, well-respected guy on that team. He's a leader. So some stats here that I think are kind of interesting. Going into this game, a lot of question marks for SDSU. Their starting running back, I'm not sure that he played last night. It's hard to tell, which is good news for Utah, right? But they were 4th in the nation in rushing going into this game.
Yeah.
Averaging 275 yards a game on the ground. And last night, 113.
Yeah.
113 yards. And in the passing game, 7 of 21 passes for 60 yards. Now, obviously,
anytime you got 3 QBs playing in one game, it's going to be a bad night.
Yeah.
Right.
And it definitely was.
Yeah, no, it was a rough night. I think defensively, Utah did their deal to hold the fourth best rushing offense in the country.
Yep.
To barely over 3 yards per carry. Incredible. Really pitched a shutout until the last second there. I mean, I know those are high character, moments for the program. I know that they're not out there let's just run our generic defense and get out of here. I mean, they're trying to hold the shutout. So, but overall, just another dominant week by the defense, I thought.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, they're really showing up in a big way, and we're going to ride that defense like we usually do. And I think the offense has shown a lot of promise. We're opening up next week against Arizona State, and so it's our first Pac-12 game, and I think we've got a good shot. What do you guys think about that?
Cal, what do you? ASU's in a world of hurt with the Herm Edwards staff. I mean, that's a
ASU is it's a wasp nest right now.
Yeah.
Socially, academically, team-wise, they're looking for any positives. But as we've learned, just like SDSU last year, we get ourselves into these positions of trap games that I don't want to say that the players overlook or the coaches definitely overlook, but you are going to have those lulls of momentum and motivation in the season.
Yeah.
This could be an easy one to look. However, going to Tempe and playing early in the season at night is a reason to get motivated and jacked up.
100%.
It is a business trip. We know we usually don't perform very well down there, and they're going to have it on the forefront of their focus.
Sure.
That we go out there and we come out slinging.
I think one of the biggest things that's different, I've always talked about moving from the Mountain West to the Pac-12 as well, is we would go into weeks knowing we were going to win, right? Like against the Wyomings and the Colorado States. We could have a bad night and still get it done. This league, if you have a bad night, you'll get beat. I mean, even if ASU's going through a lot, there's enough talented guys on that team that if you don't come out and play right and execute, they're going to get you. So not necessarily a trap game, but could be. So Utah needs to come out and handle business. Get this thing done, start 1-0 in conference.
And ASU is actually at a deficit. You look at San Diego State's quarterbacks last night, the starter goes down, the defense starts watering at the mouth.
Yeah.
The second string goes down, and you get a legitimate redshirt freshman taking snaps under the ball, and the defense is going to chuckle.
Oh, yeah.
And that was shown in the stat that was thrown out by the color commentators when they said that Cam Rising has more touchdowns than SDSU had completed passes.
Yeah.
And this is later in the game.
Yep.
So it's really hard to determine the defense's progression or growth off of last night's game, but they will be rearing for a fight come next Saturday because we owe ASU a couple of lumps.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and we're going to be right back after this quick break. All right, welcome back to the show. We've got former Poinsettia Bowl MVP Jordan Wynn biting into one of Public Ed's fabulous breakfast burritos. Jordan, what do you think of it?
Man, that is really good. I would highly recommend you stop by this week and get the breakfast burrito. Fantastic.
And that breakfast burrito comes with egg, cheese, avocado, salsa, bacon or sausage, and their famous tots. And,
so good.
And Cal, how is that burger?
I hate to disappoint you, Jordan, but you got cheated on this deal. The burger is fantabulous. It's so good I have to make up words. I asked last week where the beef is. It's in my hand and in my digestive tract at this point.
Yep.
You will not be disappointed.
And that's a killer burger. I've had it myself. Lettuce, tomato, IPA jam, which really makes it. Cheese and a special sauce. So come by Public Ed's and try their food. It's amazing. And don't forget about their coffee. Welcome back. Now, speaking of the extra point, we are joined by all-academic honor roll athlete, Mr. Jordan Noyes today. How are you doing, Jordan?
Good, thanks. You?
Thanks. It's great. Thanks for coming on.
Of course.
So, Jordan, tell us a little bit about your journey. You have kind of an unconventional background here as far as being a college athlete in the United States.
So I think you all know Matt Gay. He years ago now. I hadn't kicked the ball in like American football for about 2.5 years ago. That was the first time I actually kicked the American football.
Wow.
Sent some film over to the coaches via Matt when he was at the U, and he basically gave them some film. They said they liked me. I flew over. They gave me a walk-on spot, and yeah, I guess the rest is history. I'm here now.
How old were you when you started this journey?
28, I think.
28. It's never too late on your dreams.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What one thing I wanted to ask here as we dive in, playing quarterback, you know, I know what it's like when you have an opportunity to make a play to win the game. Walk us through your mindset, going even to when you're on the sideline and the offense is driving to go win the game, and you know there's an opportunity coming up where you might have to make a kick to win the game. Talk us through what you're thinking on the sideline and as you're lining up, what your mindset's like in those moments.
Make the kid.
Time out. Time out. I want to see if I seen the kicker. All right, go ahead and answer that.
Just make the kick. I mean,
Yeah.
they say practice makes perfect. I've probably kicked since I've started kicking 1,000 balls, and in practice it really does. It does help you in those moments.
Yeah, so you're just relying on, I've done
Yeah.
this so many times. Let's
Not
just
even
go up
relying.
and-
It just
yeah,
it's weird because when you go out there, you just feel like you've been there 1,000 times. So
sure.
it just feels normal.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know, kind of.
I mean, I don't know. Your job's a little trickier, I would say, in those moments, right? I mean,
Can
I
be,
got
yeah, you're right.
I got all 10, all 11 of us. Yours is, I mean, outside from the snap and hold, it's you putting the ball between the uprights. So, but that's a cool way to think about it for
Yeah.
people watching and listening, doing it so many times. Just get out there and drill
It
it.
really does help.
Yeah.
So I have a question. What's it like being the oldest member of the team? I mean, on average, you're 8 to 9 years older
Yes.
than your teammates.
I mean, like I said before we came on, like as a man, we're 10 years old at heart anyway. So you kind of fit in easily. There are times when I feel a bit older, but to be honest with you, it's not too bad.
You may be closer to some of the assistant coaches' ages than your teammates.
Older than some of them, actually. Yeah, older than some of them.
And I've got a quick question. It's been notoriously a tradition when I played, probably when
Yeah.
you played, that the kickers have the lowest golf handicap on the team. Is that the case in
No. So, I wish. That's a commitment, that sport, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Because I got the kids, I don't really get out on the course as much as I'd like.
And yeah, speaking of the kids, you have three
have
under the age of 3.
Yes.
And a lot of you older fans out there know how difficult it would be to balance that.
Oh, yeah,
So thank you for your efforts and
course,
your
yeah.
focus on that.
yeah.
I think we'd be remiss. Condolences for the Queen.
Yes.
Obviously,
Yes.
that's a
Condolences.
crazy deal there.
Really.
What I was just over there. What's your favorite premier? Who's your team? Who's your
West
premier?
Ham.
West Ham.
Yeah, but I was watching it on my way here, and
Yeah.
we lost, so that hurts a little bit.
Is that why
Yeah.
you're not eating breakfast?
Yes.
A little upset?
Yeah.
I can't stand
How about talk about that a little bit? I mean, obviously here we don't have a monarchy or anything like that. She was in power for so long. What's it like back there? Is it, you know?
I mean, yeah, I think it's what's the word? It's more exaggerated everywhere else. You don't really think about it as much when you live there, I guess.
Yeah.
Is the best way to put it. But I mean, she 96 years old. She had a great innings, didn't she? So, I mean, it's there. You think about it,
Sure.
but it's not like it is over here, like
yeah.
anywhere else, I guess.
So I've got something. Utah has a pretty awesome tradition as far as special teams goes. I mean, maybe something about that.
I will not argue with that.
But we've had some awesome field goal kickers. Obviously, you know,
Fantastic.
Matt Gay,
Yes.
pretty well, right? We've had Luis Sakota,
Yeah.
Andy Phillips.
Yep.
A lot of great kickers. And
Danny Pulsifer.
Yeah. Ryan Kenishiro.
Oh, yep.
But the truth is, one thing I think is worth mentioning, and you can be in a very high pressure situation
Yes.
sometimes,
There is
so,
that, yeah.
So you make the kick and you're the hero, or you miss and you're the goat,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and it's a tremendous amount of pressure. And I think one thing that we talk a lot about, or we try to talk about, is the humanity of college athletics, and these are student athletes, and we've seen some kickers in the past get a lot of shade,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and not realizing that there's more to their lives than playing on the field,
Yes.
And without naming names, I mean, there's people that probably come to mind, but I thought that was worth mentioning, because that's the same for any athlete that plays on the field at the Rice Eccles. But, what are your thoughts on that kind of stuff, and maybe preparing for big kicks, or knowing that you have all this pressure on you and there's 50,000 people watching,
Like I said, it's weird. You just go into a zone. You can't think about anything else. You just got to think about the kick. That's the most important thing in that moment, and just make it. That's the best way I can put it, I guess.
I always wonder if you're lining up for a kick that really matters. What are you thinking about? I mean, you say you're in the zone, but is anything going through your mind?
Again, it's just that practice thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like
right?
a broken record, but you just go into that. I've been here before. Just make sure you get into that zone. I know I can make that kick, so just make it.
What's the longest kick in your career?
72 yards, but I had a bit of wind behind me, but
Just a bit.
just a bit, yeah.
Just a bit. Do you hear the crowd?
No.
It totally blank
Okay.
at all, or does it fade out? Because I used to be able to hear the crowd,
Yeah.
and as soon as we would break the huddle, it would
Yeah.
mute. It
Yeah.
would slowly
Yeah,
mute. And
that's
it would
probably
mute.
the best way to put
Yeah.
it.
That's the way you
Yes,
see it.
Yes.
You hear it as well.
Yes.
You hear it as well. And does icing work?
I've never been iced.
They've
Really?
never iced you.
Not yet. I mean, there was that.
Time out.
There,
Go ahead.
there was an extra point last night where they was reviewing the play. I guess that's a
Yeah.
kind of icing, but
Yeah.
you just get in that zone again and just make the kick.
Well, they're pretty much banking on the sense that you don't have any patience, and if you have 3 kids under
Oh,
the
you
age of
got
3,
Holy
you have
smokes!
oodles
You
of
got
patience.
a lot of
Absolutely,
So
man.
that might be that opposite effect, the
exactly.
desired effect with you. I had a question. We had a question about what was the hardest thing to you to get acclimated to moving over to the United States. But I'm going to rephrase the question to a sociology major from a sociology graduate and an educator. What was the hardest American schema for you to adjust to when you moved across the pond?
Food.
The food.
Really?
Food, yeah. It's you're so easily enticed into the bad stuff,
Wow.
I
Great.
put on a lot of weight when I
Great
got
comment
here.
right
Yeah.
there. Oh my goodness, I love that.
It's so
It's so
easy
true.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
so
eat
easy.
junk here.
Oh, easily, and not even realize you're doing it.
Well, and if you look at the ingredients on like Doritos,
Oh.
we have twice the number of ingredients because most of them have been outlawed and are illegal
Yes.
on your side of the
Uh-huh.
world.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
It's incredible. We go overseas, and my wife has some health conditions. She can eat anything over there, and here, very, very strict.
Yeah.
So I'm
bet.
glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
because it's interesting dynamic to hear that. Obviously, not being from here and talking about the food, but it's something that's definitely worth mentioning.
So Jordan Noyes is a 30-year-old sophomore
Yes.
at the University of Utah. Are you a red shirt? You must be because of COVID, right?
That
Or-
COVID one, yes.
Yeah.
I'm a school junior, but a football freshman, sophomore. Sorry.
Football
Yeah.
sophomore.
Wow.
So I asked Solomon Enos this question last week. Most memorable moment as a Ute so far for you?
Oh, that Pac-12 championship.
Mm.
Two weeks in a row.
Yep.
To be fair, both Oregon games,
Yeah.
especially that one when Covey took it to the house at
Mhm.
at the home ground. Oh my goodness.
Do you have any
I saw that.
memorable kicks? Anything that comes to mind?
Probably the first kick at Florida, the 43-yarder.
Yeah.
That was pretty special for me personally.
Do you remember ever kicking a kick where you felt, I belong?
That one.
That was
Yeah.
the one?
Really?
Really?
That was a big one.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, probably
So
that one.
what made it so special?
It was my first, I guess, hype because I kicked in the what game did I kick in? I think it was Oregon State. I had a 53 or 52 yarder I missed. So to kick something over 40 yards in a game and just know that I can do that
Yeah.
was probably why it was so special for me.
So last questions here for this segment. What's your experience like as a student athlete playing under Coach Kyle Whittingham?
Well, we're with him every day, being specialist. He's our position coach as well. So I mean, we see him every day. So it becomes more of like a friendly relationship rather than seeing him as at the top of the totem pole. If you know what I mean. So it's good. Yeah, we all enjoy it.
And academic Pac-12 honor roll.
Yes.
Any questions from the educator here?
What, I love asking this question. What has been the toughest college course for you that you felt to be successful in? Was there one class that might have challenged you to stay on that
I'm in one now. It's a financial one. Yeah.
Here we go
again.
again.
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row.
Finance
Two
again.
right here.
I see a theme.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough at the moment, but
Yeah.
I'm getting through it.
Well, Jordan, it's so cool to have you on. We're so grateful to you
course.
for showing up today, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. And good luck the rest of the season.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah,
We'll
thank
be right
you.
back after these messages.
Hello, Ute fans. Cal Beck here. And when I'm looking for a great return to excellent food, Public Coffee is Ute fans' choice for the best cup of joe in the state of Utah. Come into any of Public Ed's location for a slice of avocado toast and many delightful delectations to tantalize your taste buds and Ute tummies. Go Utes.
All right, welcome back to the Extra Point. I'm Andy Brown, joined here by Jordan Wynn and Cal Beck.
Yes, sir.
So I just thought I'd open this segment up by talking about what Ute fans has kind of all been about, at least the last year and a half. Obviously, the hot topic in the NCAA, in college sports, is NIL, name, image, and likeness. Athletes can now be paid for their name, image, and likeness. And obviously, there's been a lot of controversy because of this. And part of the controversy is that, like a lot of people for a long time have been saying that athletes should be paid. The universities are profiting big time off of these athletes. So, as far as we are concerned here today, and what we've been focused on for quite a while now, the most important thing, I think, what I like to say anyway, is that we really want to be bigger than NIL.
Yeah.
We are a collective. We function as a collective. But there's so many other things that we want to do outside of that realm. NIL is just a fraction of what we're doing. For instance, I just throw out there, we had Mr. Jordan Noyes on. Well, because of NIL policy, he cannot be paid because he is not a United States citizen. So it's a very wonky thing, And I guess I should also mention that, we really believe that we can have an impact here with this podcast and with some of the other things that we're doing. But the most important thing to us is the student athlete and giving them fair representation. And
student athletes.
Yes, exactly. And giving them the exposure they deserve. So, Cal Beck, what are your thoughts on NIL right now? And I know you might have a couple.
Just a couple.
Yeah.
Let me climb up on my soapbox. So NIL is like Whittingham's hairstyle at the beginning of the year, and like my father wonders about my hair every time he watches the podcast. We all wonder about that white elephant in the room being NIL. What's going on with it?
Yeah.
We don't seem to understand it. We've heard it. We've maybe witnessed it, but we really don't understand how it's impacting the student athletes in which we have pledged our devotion and our support to. I will start with this. We know that college football is a money-driven commerce, a money-driven business. Our nation is a capitalistic society. And unfortunately, you will come across predatory capitalistic practices when money is the driving force in any type of scenario. That unfortunately is rearing its ugly head in NIL deals. There are a lot of people that believe that the SECs and the Big Tens and the big name schools now just have a green light for the things that they've done under the table and behind closed doors throughout the last decades. There's also a popular belief that the Utes program of NIL and their approach is significantly lagging behind the average in the country and definitely lagging behind those leading in other markets. You talk about the individual NIL contracts and the collectives. There's a specific school down south that has many collective deals lined up that, in the words of our own student athletes at the U, they feel is unfair and they feel slighted that they are not getting these types of opportunities. All we want to do is promote the student athlete and give them a platform and an ability to support themselves for the services and the entertainment that they provide. And that is why I love being a part of this team. Money is the issue, and it's a matter of how. The athletic department and other powers that be at this university have approached NIL almost like we do medicine in America, a curative versus preventative attitude. They are trying to play catch up while others are determining the pace and the rules and the parameters of which it's going to be played. We cannot afford to keep losing ground in that aspect. You mentioned earlier we couldn't pay our guest because he is not an American citizen. Ridiculous. These are the fine lines that need to be investigated because we really don't know how many student-athlete opportunities or program opportunities are being left in the shadows because there's fear of approach or people are blocking other entities of getting involved because they don't want to sit down and figure out the big picture.
I think, it's also tough to cipher through what's real and what isn't right now in the scheme and in the media,
Absolutely.
right? You hear the things going on with what SC did with Caleb Williams. You hear what's going on with Bryce Young, Texas, some of these bigger schools. Trying to cipher through what's real and what isn't is, I think, one part of the issue. Two, the big issue I have, especially, being a former player, is you are now approaching grounds of 18 to 22-year-olds trying to make big business decisions, big decisions, and there, like you said, there are people potentially taking advantage of it. I think we've seen firsthand athletes that have signed deals where they are only allowed to do certain things that are dictated by that group. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think when I was 18 or 19 years old, if there was multiple different avenues for me to make income due to NIL, I would want to explore all those options and not be tied down to one organization. I mean, you talk about pro athletes getting tied down by Nike and not being allowed to go to Adidas, that's one thing. We're talking about 18-year-olds not being able to do an interview.
And if you are an entity that's looking to support and bolster the student-athlete experience, why would you single them out and make them contractually obligated to you and you alone?
Yep.
Why are you the only source of income? To me, that seems counterproductive to the development of the student-athlete. Please continue.
No, I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm, as a 19-year-old, I'd want to get every cent that I could out of this thing. So why would I ever allow anyone to limit that? Or again, I mean, we're talking about, college students trying to make these decisions, trying to juggle the classroom, trying to juggle family relationships, trying to juggle playing the game of football. And now you're throwing this huge curveball into their day-to-day life of trying to plan accordingly. And it really is the Wild West. Obviously, we're trying to do our best. At the end of the day, especially from my chair, and I know from these guys as well, we're just here to help the student athlete in any way that we can, and that's always been our focus and will continue to be our focus.
It's interesting too. Is obviously you hear about Arch Manning. I'm gonna throw it out there.
Oh my God!
$280,000, 2 days recruiting trip with him and 7 other players. It's absurd.
Let's clarify. $250,000 budget for high school recruit trip for 1 weekend, 2 days.
2 days? If somebody wrote you a check for $250,000 for 2 days, I don't even know if I could really spend it that fast.
That's the stakes of the game that we're in.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And so what I was mentioning was, we know Oregon's going to get it. We know
Yep.
the SCs are going to get it. We know Georgia's going to get it. The Bamas, the Floridas,
The Texas A&Ms,
Texas
the
A&Ms,
Texas,
exactly.
this is the booster box
Yep.
that have been known for decades, but is now starting to sprout out of the ground and
Right.
be seen by the general population.
Exactly. But then other schools and fan bases, for that matter, are behind the curve.
Yep.
Are struggling with it.
Yep.
And the consensus amongst many of the people we've talked to, especially athletes, is Utah's behind the pack a little bit. And so this is a very trying time in terms of the NCAA, and everyone's searching for answers. And the big thing here is, of course, we're all about the student athlete.
Yep.
But in order for us to stay competitive, not just on the football field, but on the basketball court, soccer field, the baseball
then
field.
recruitment.
Yeah. For us to stay competitive, the way it looks right now, and NIL is changing all the time, but we have to make a better effort with name, image, and likeness. And it's not that we even really like it that much. That's
Sure.
just the way things are
Yep.
right now, and Utah is behind.
I'll go as far as saying we need to make an effort, not a better effort.
Yeah.
Because there's some people
Touché.
sitting on their hands thinking that they're going to let it blow over and then they'll deduct what needs to be done. The only thing that we shouldn't be doing is nothing. And that
Exactly.
seems to be our game plan right now.
Exactly. So we love our Utes, we love our players, we love our fan base. I think we should throw it out there. We love our staff, and we want to see the University of Utah compete. Think about it, guys. We played in the Rose Bowl against Ohio State less than a year ago.
Yep.
And we want to keep doing that. And we're capable of that. So any other thoughts, you guys, before we wrap this segment up?
No, I just, it's the Wild West, and we got to find a way to stay relevant in it.
Absolutely.
Are you ever going to be able to compete with the LA's markets of the world? I don't know. Who's to say? It's tough. But to show something is better than nothing, and we need to definitely do that.
I'm not ready to climb off this soapbox yet, but I will make it brief. We're approaching dire straits as far as a tipping point for the program, not just the football program, but the athletic program. The athletic directors, the Division of Athletic Directors, their collective had their annual meeting last month, where a huge majority voted in the future. They want athletics and college football specifically to stay under the NCAA umbrella, because there has been talks of money now generating and driving the sport that P5 football might secede from the NCAA, so they don't have to worry about academic eligibility and whatnot, the fine lines to walk. The athletic directors voted in a huge majority that they want to stay under the NCAA because they recognize the student athlete in the situation. And if that's the desire of the athletic directors, we need to figure out how to stay relevant and function and make growth within that parameters. Being student athletes first, not paid athletes, student athletes. And we've got some catching up to do. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some conversation, and it's going to take, like I always tell my students in my classroom, it's going to take a village. It's going to take a tribe.
Yep.
And that is why I am willing to propose and pledge to all of you student athletes that work and attend classes on this campus and that pay your blood, sweat, and tears for the University of Utah. I am going to write a letter to the president of the university and to the athletic director explicitly requesting a sit-down meeting, and they may or may not pay attention to it, but I want to bring attention to the fact I am willing to sit down, and I have a platform and availability and an opportunity to bolster student athletes from any sport through a collective agreement. If we can make that happen, we can enrich the student athletes' lives and experiences across the board and not make it a pay-to-play type format where we're singling out one player, making them contractually obligated to us and not giving them any other opportunities. You heard our last two guests respond to my question. What was the hardest class that got in the way of your academic performance?
They both said
finance.
Yep.
We want to treat these people like businessmen in the adult world and yet still consider them children barely leaving their own homes and their parents' supervision, and their kids at 18 through 22 years old, minus our 30-year-old kicker. But it is what it is. Like, we are throwing them into situations. And like I tell my students every single day, I would never ask you to do something I don't believe you can do. And I wonder if some of these NIL entities are willing to say the same thing to the people that they financially support. Are they doing the best thing for those students? And are they putting them in a situation where they can be successful? I am willing to sit down with the powers that be. I'm willing to represent our entity as a former Ute, as an educator and a member of this tribe, to make their opportunities and hopefully their lives and experiences better.
Yep.
Awesome.
Well said.
Well said, Cal. Thank you very much. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Thanks for watching The Extra Point. Special thanks to our guest, Mr. Jordan Noyes. We'll see you next week after the ASU game.
Go Utes.
Go Utes.
Go Utes.
I need to do that again.
Yep. You leaned right in the second you started again.
Let me just think about how this, because I have a clever thing I want to say here, or at least I think it's clever.